Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to round 6 of the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup, brought to you by Buggyra Racing and 301.cz, with the remaining races broadcasted live and in full by simbroadcasts.tv. I'm Peter Butcher. I'm joined tonight in the commentary box by Jack Eyre and Thilo Falkenberg. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's well. Thanks for tuning in.
Good evening, everybody.
So, qualifying is underway for round 6, gents. So, why don't you take us to the track?
Yeah, we'll jump to the track. So, of course, this week we are at Blackwood, historic reversed. Very, very short track, to be honest, isn't it, gents? It's only 3.3 kilometres or 2.1 miles in length with only 6 corners in total. So, 4 to the left, 2 to the right. So, out of all of the tracks that we've got on the calendar, this is going to be the one that's at least the hardest in qualifying. As you can see, there's a huge pile up of cars just waiting for some track space towards turn number 6 onto the start-finish straight. Everybody fighting over the same kind of bit of tarmac. You don't want to follow somebody very closely around a lap, however. You'll find that you'll be going a bit too fast into some corners and you can throw some lap time away. So yeah, 18 minutes of qualifying remaining out of the 20-minute qualifying session before we have a 5-lap sprint race. And then we have a 79-lap endurance race. So plenty of action coming up. We'll just run through the championship standings as they are at the moment. I think Thilo's going to run you through that.
Yes, so Isaac Price is in the lead. He scored so far in the season 1,348 points. He's closely followed by Sami Litmanen and Jan Wikowski. In 4th position, we see Vytautas Lagutskas from Yanni Katia, Pauli Peltakangas, Patrick Hall, Ricardas Petravicius, and Daniel Balla, and Simonas Salkauskas rounding up the top 10 in the standings. So these standings so far don't include the drop results. We have 3 dropped rounds for each, the sprint race and the endurance race. So there's still plenty of reshuffling available to everyone, but we start into the second half of the season, and this means for us it's now getting very important to score the points.
Definitely, and it's definitely close at the top. In the top 3, there's around about, I think, 94 points separating 3rd from 1st. So all is, again, still to play for. But Isaac Price, with the drop rounds coming into his favour as we get closer to the end of the season, he's on for a stormer in terms of the amount of points he's able to get from the drop result and the remaining rounds. So we'll be very close at the top.
But don't forget the first round here from Blackwood, which was disastrous for Yoni Katia after he couldn't finish the endurance race there. And he's only 127 points behind. So with the drop results coming into effect, this will be also close enough to still fight for the sharp end of the field.
Yeah, definitely. Yoni Katia, a very, very well-established driver within Live for Speed, along with all the other guys at the top of the standings there, everybody on the grid. Really, again, they know each other from prior seasons, and of course the Live for Speed community is quite closely knit. So no, it's great because these guys are all, again, friends that are racing for. I mean, we've got an amazing set of prizes up for grabs in the Buggyra championship this year. Of course, the monetary prizes as well as cryptocurrency and real life racing track day experience in some pretty top-notch machinery.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, Thilo. Yeah, on that note, we need to give a shout out to the technical partner for the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup, which is 301.cz, and other partners who are sponsoring prizes and things like that include Zero Mileage Lubricants, Excalibur Army, Slovak Training Centre, Eldis, VAG Logistics Services, K-Tech, New Trend, A-Track, GC System, and Yordak. Sorry, back to you, Thilo.
I wanted to point out that one of the prizes and one of the machinery Jack was talking about is the actual race truck. Buggyra is entering into the European Truck Racing Championship. that you can drive around. I think it's Most.
Yes, Must in the Czech Republic. And if you want to Google that car, feel free. It's the Buggyra VK50, 1200 PS and 5,500 Newton meters of torque. So we're talking astronomical figures. I bet. It tends to probably change the rotation of the Earth rather than propel itself around the track. It's a groundbreaking kind of power we're talking, and somebody in this session or in this championship will be behind the wheel of that race truck when the season is over. So the initial qualifying times have come in. 29 times have been set so far. The fastest from Sammy Littman being a 1 minute 5.42. He's about a tenth and a half clear of P2, which is Sidus Gure is his teammate. And right at the back of the grid, 30 times have been set. The difference from pole 1 minute 5.42 down to 1 minute 12.61 for Paolo. But of course, we would assume he's been hindered on that lap. He's quite a bit off the pace. So hopefully everybody can get a clean lap in the 30 minutes that we've got remaining.
Yeah, one reason why the times are also more spread than we used to see so far throughout the season is that we are having one division today, with all those drivers who set a hot lap are present on this very server.
Sammy Littman, as you said, currently topping the times with a 105.31. Gap of 0.26, guys, to Gabor in second place.
Yeah, should we jump on board with Yoni Kitiak? I believe he's about to start fast lap. And we can show you around the racetrack we are at today. Of course, Blackwood historic reverse.
Running on board with Yoni Katila right now as he heads over start finish up towards turn number 1 in the reverse configuration of this track, which is a twisty left-right section underneath the bridge. Jack, do you want to take us around the rest of the lap?
Yeah, sure. So the track kind of drops away from you into turn number 1 as Yoni's getting all kinds of out of shape there through the left-hander. So through to the left-hander of turn number 4 now. A little bit of a straight before you've got it's just a bit sharper than a 90 left, but it sort of opens up on the way out, which allows you to get on the power a bit earlier. Bit of curb usage out to the right that you can place your car on, and then we've got this incredibly long straight, runs the entire length of the track. We'll definitely see some overtakings towards the end of the lap here, just before turn number 6, which we're approaching now. We're not running the chicane, you can see it on the left. Not running that configuration. Of course, when we were at Blackwood for round number 1, we were running in the clockwise direction with the chicane included, so Yoni unfortunately aborts that lap after just not being able to put the power down out of turn number 6 across the line. Yoni currently sits in P15, around about 1.3 seconds off pole position. He'll definitely be hoping he can extract a bit more out of his car before qualifying is over, but we've got about 11 minutes left. There's still, like I keep saying, plenty of time for everybody to get a lap in. Of course, 30 cars all fighting over 3.3 kilometers of track, which is about 101 meters per car. So it's not a huge amount of space when we're talking the power figures that these cars put down and the big hole that the rear wing punches in the air.
Definitely, and one thing that was interesting to see on Yanni's lap there is the fact that exiting the turn 6 hairpin, the track actually drops down. It goes downhill, and the car gets light there, which makes it difficult to really get the power down, which eventually also was the reason why Yanni eventually aborted this very lap. But it's not very common to see the Blackwood 2 reversed used in a championship with GT1 cars, so I think the one or the other really needs some experience with it, and maybe qualifying session is the experience is not there yet.
We're currently riding on board with Lagutskas, who is heading up to start finish. And he improved to 3rd place. So that was a good lap from him, a 1:05.62. It's quite close to the top still.
It is, but Sammy Lipman, every time anybody gets a bit closer to his time, he seems to improve. He's now down to a 1:05.23. So again, just shy of 3/10 faster than anybody else on track at the moment. Plenty of cars in the 1:05s though, the top 8 currently in the 1:05s.
Yeah, we're riding on the bonnet cam aside as Sammy Lipman, and now he's just about to start a fast lap, but he's coming up against someone who's not as fast as him, and he's going to struggle to get round here, I think. Yep, the car ahead has absolutely no obligation to move, and Sammy's just badly timed that run, so he'll abort and go for another run.
You can see that the drivers are running again traditional lift for speed qualifying setups with the least amount of tyre pressure possible and the softest rubber that they can, and of course that means that the setup's really only good for one flying lap once the car's up to temperature, which usually happens on the car's out lap. So that's why we've seen so many people jump back into the pits to make another attempt, but it takes a bit longer. Of course, you have to take into consideration the out lap every time you want to go out for a run, but vital track time is up for grabs if you go for the softest kind of setup in terms of rubber and tyre pressures. So curious to see what kind of setups the guys will be running for the 5-lap sprint race. Of course, that will be vastly different to the strategy and the setups involved for the 79-lap endurance race that we'll see in a little bit later.
Well, probably for the 5-lap sprint race, the tires can suffer all the way. So it's probably just the qualifying setup with a slightly reduced camber and maybe a different tire compound, depending on what you like. But definitely there are going to be vastly different setups used in the endurance race.
Yeah, this is one of the nice and interesting things about the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup, and the format that it offers is people have to come up with a setup that will last and be as good as possible over 2 laps, an out lap and a hot lap for qualifying. One that will last 5 laps during a sprint race, and then one that also will last 90 minutes. That's a lot to do.
Definitely. As Levente Toth is now in P number 3, which pushes Lagutz-Kass and Isaac Price down a position. Isaac Price only 5th at the moment, and I say only. He's been in the top 3, I think, for the past few races. Apart from Rockingham, he was racing in another championship, I think just a few hours before the actual race session went up, so the small amount of practice that he had at Rockingham last time around, Isaac Price definitely showing his hand and how quick he can adapt from sim to sim. I think he'll definitely want to be a little higher up the grid order before the sprint race though, as Jan Mikowski slots into P number 4, again pushes Vitaltas Lagutz-Kass and Isaac Price down another position, as Isaac Price again responds to that, setting a 1:05.54, puts him into P3, which is again where at least I think he should be. We know how capable Isaac Price is, especially his racing strategy. Sammy Lipman, and again still the fastest man, currently sits on pole position alongside his teammate.
Yeah, it's an all-siders front row right now. Sorry, Tilo.
Yeah, just wanted to point out that the sharp end of the field is pretty densely packed. Top 7 currently within half a second. And if you go down to 1 second, we have got the top 15 cars within that frame. And currently in 15th position, it's Yanni Katia. And we know he just needs a clean-ish lap to be much further up in the grid.
Yeah, when we rode on board with him earlier, we saw that he was just a little bit ragged. So we've heard from him in the past that he does fantastic amounts of practice for races. Like in certain combinations, he's been known to do over 1,000 laps of practice as he runs wide and aborts again with only 4.5 minutes left.
Yeah, so he's got at least a couple of attempts still left in the tank, but there's almost a surge of cars as the qualifying timer ticks down towards the end. You'll find almost every car on track, as we've got now 31 times set. So again, you'd think there's horrendous amounts of traffic on the track during qualifying. Just wait till we get into the endurance race, when everybody again is going to be fighting as much as they possibly can, but lap traffic comes into account. There's a huge stream of cars leaving the pit lane now. Getting a final attempt in. Ali Peltokangas leads, I think it's about 4 or 5 cars just coming out of pit lane now. Peltokangas currently P8 for Sidus. His teammates both on the front row of the grid. Peltokangas down on row number 4.
Yeah, not used to seeing him quite so low down. I mean, it's not low down, is it really? It's still inside the top 10, but Pauli is definitely someone you expect to see in those top 3 positions, certainly.
Yeah, and of course, with the 5-lap sprint race, the results of that will determine how far back we reverse the grid into the 79-lap endurance race.
Let's ride on board with Pauli Peltokangas as he begins his lap. Well, it was a committed first couple of corners, wasn't it, guys? But he's not happy with
it.
it.
Committed to the left-hander, but just couldn't quite get the front end to agree with where he wanted it to go, and missed the apex for the right-hander by about a metre. He aborts the lap, and we've got about 2 minutes left, so with a fast lap being around a 1 minute 5, 1 minute 6, you'd expect the outlap to be around about 1 minute 10 to 15. And of course, you can cross that line with even a second to go and get the remainder of your time lapped in.
Well, even 100th of a second is enough.
I wouldn't want to push it that close, but yes, it is certainly possible.
Maybe people would try to push it if there was some prize for it.
Vitautas Lagutskas, guys.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, look at Sami Litmanen's time as well. He's improved, but Vitautas Lagutskas splitting the side as drivers, pushing Buggyra down onto the second row of the grid. Isaac Price again after coming back a little, putting a time in that would place him P3 at the time, has been pushed down to P5 now, with Lagutskas and Jan Mikowski both improving their times. But Sami Litmanen again, as everybody gets a little closer to him, he just excels and goes a little bit faster himself, currently now a 1 minute 5.19.
Yeah, really close to even the 104s as Isaac Price improves to 3rd place and pushes Gabor down to 4th out of the top 3 in the dying moments. He's been high up at the top end for 20 minutes basically, but yeah, if you're not there at the end of the session, it doesn't matter where you were before.
Jan Wikowski is now coming around the last corner to start his final attempt to improve his grid position.
Jan Wikowski heads under the Buggyra Zero Mileage Lubricants Bridge and into the fast sweeping right-left chicane just before the back straight. Looks like a good lap so far. Nice exit onto the back straight. The clock has ticked to 0, so anyone who's on a lap, it will be their final attempt. As we see Sean Lee for Air Attack spinning out in the background there, he won't get any more. He won't get any more attempts in. That's his quality over.
And it just goes from bad to worse for Joni Katia. Was one of the last, if not the last, to cross the line, and aborts his qualifying lap, running wide slightly out of turn number 2. He's down in P15 now, just unable to get a clean lap in, whether that be down to driver error or traffic.
Well, remember that if he finishes lower down in the sprint race, he will be promoted to the front of the grid if he's in the lucky number position at the end of the sprint race. So who knows? It could be a strategic move, but I wouldn't risk that if I were him. So let's see. Qualifying's over. Is anybody else still on a lap?
No. The final cars just pulled into the pit lane, so qualifying is over. Sami Litmanen is on pole position, just ahead of Jan Wikowski, 1/10 of a second between those two drivers. Vytautas Lagutskas in third position now. Isaac Price improved into fourth, so the duo of Litmanen and Gabor was split quite significantly in the last moments of this qualifying session. Sixth position is Levente Toth. Chat already pointed out that they haven't seen him any further up than he is today, so quite a good qualifying result for him. In seventh position, William Lima for Energy Virtual Racing, ahead of his fellow Brazilian road appraisers Picanco. Ninth position is Pauli Paltakangas for Sidus. 10th position, Energy Virtual Racing's Victor Veloso. David Gotch for Team Rock Racing in 11th. 12th for Energy Virtual Racing's Kaiki Pirappo. Aerotex Ali Reza in 13th position. 14th for Genuine Racing's Nico Pontola. 15th, Yannick Katia for World Class Lines, who seemingly did not get another good lap into his session, did not improve from when we saw his aborted lap on board. Harry Vitanen for Born to Race in 16th position, 17th Daniel Balla, 18th Sean Lee for Aerotech Newsroom. Then it's Radek Lutsky for Viaduct Czech Racing Team. Conquest Racing's Prajmak Vdovyac in 20th. 21st, Jari Katia for World Class Lines. Team America's Zanella in 22nd. Then he's followed by Vincent. In 24th position, Yaroslav Nalik. 25th position, Born to Race, Eva Chevchik. 26th, Kadrich for Master Race Car, just ahead of his teammate Michael Malek, who had a disastrous qualifying session, I just realized, down in 27th position. Pavel Lutsky for Viaduct Racing Team in 28th. He is followed by Duika, then Michel, and last but not least, Paolo.
The beginning of race number 1, the 5-lap sprint race, is around about 4 minutes away. There will be a test start before we go for the real start, and 31 drivers will take that grid. And I think Jack is going to explain to us the process at the end of the first race about how the grid is set for race 2, the 90-minute endurance race.
The reverse results for at least race number 2 determined by race 1's actual run time by the leader. The 100th of a second after the leader has crossed the start-finish line on the final lap will be taken into consideration. So it turns out to be a 0. That means that the top 10 cars will be reversed. It turns out to be a 9. It will be the top 19 cars in reverse. So whatever the 100th is when the leader crosses the line to complete race number 1, add 10 positions to that, and that's your reverse grid result. So again, it's something that you can almost class as completely random, because I don't think a driver can calculate down to the 100th when he's going to cross the line. So, you know, he can't automatically get a 0 and it only be 10 place reverse grid for race number 2. We'll see what it is come the time. But Sammy Littman has it all to do from from the pole position on the front row. See if he can stay out ahead. But again, the more points he picks up in race number 1, regardless of how many cars are reversed for race number 2, he's going to be at the very back of whatever that reverse number is come race number 2.
We'll take a short break here and we'll be back for the start of race 1, a 5-lap sprint race around Blackwood Historic Reversed. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to the start of race number 1 here, sorry, for round 6 of the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup, the XR GTR at Blackwood Historic Reversed. We're just doing a test start and then things will be underway. I'll hand the mic to Jack and Tilo for the start.
So we're waiting for the race to start. The cars are on the grid. Sami Littmanen is standing there in the top position, waiting for the lights to light up.
Keep an eye on the cars at the front of the grid. The track is a little steeper towards the front. Again, a very short run down into the left and right of turn number 1.
All reds are illuminated, and we are green. Green for the sprint race. Great getaway for Sami Littmanen as Lagutskas tried to go around the outside of Jan Wikarski. And has to defend his position against Isaac Price, but so far everything is fine up in the front.
Yeah, so far so good. Levente Toth in a battle there for P6 right now. Sami Littmanen got a great start there, didn't he? Side by side, Jan Wikarski and Last Lap Motorsports for Tautas Lagutskas as we head on to the back straight. That's not where I'd want to be for Jan Wikarski as he aggressively weaves around to try and get that train of 30 cars out of his slipstream. And there we go. We've got Isaac Price and Lagutskas bump drafting side by side. Look at the advantage they've got. That's huge. Using push to pass there, the two drivers in the red cars. And that demotes Jan Wikarski to 4th. Got a spinner in the background. It's David Godge. He's next to Nico Bantola. I'm not sure where Nico qualified, but he's quite low down for where he normally starts for these races.
He's qualified in 14th, if I remember it correctly.
So yeah, he has lost a handful of places. He's now side by side with Henry Vertinen as we head down to the fast right-left chicane. He's made his way up to 18th. But yeah, at the head of the field it's Sami Littmanen, followed by Isaac Price, who managed to get the jump on Lagutskas. And Jan Wikarski with that nice bump drafting up the back straight on lap number 1. Then it's Gabor in 5th with William Lima for Energy Virtual Racing in P6. Levente Toth P7, and then side by side Pauli Peltigangas going for the move on the inside of Victor Veloso. Victor with lots of wheel spin exiting the corner and actually keeps the place. That was quite nice.
Yeah, but Pauli is now trying to counter that move. Into the turn 1 braking zone, side by side, not much runoff here.
Got a car on the wall in the background. Ali Reza Ibrahimian has crashed into turn number 2. Oof, needs to be careful with his rejoin there. He's in a very bad place. Yeah, reverses the car and he'll wait for everybody to go past. So really not a good beginning to the race for Ali Reza. You can't afford that sort of mistake in a 5-lap sprint race.
Pauli Peltigangas is now quite significantly behind Victor Veloso, so Victor definitely fixed that position for now. But now look at this slipstream. They nearly went side by side into the braking zone. Victor Veloso with a poor 6th turn. The Brazilian is defending everything and keeps it so far. We're already on lap 4, and if I recall it correctly, in the very first Buggyra race we've seen, Levente Toth got the pole position for the endurance race. Now he is in a far better position than back in the day at Blackwood Grand Prix. So he won't be on pole position, that's what I'm referring to.
Starting to spread out a little bit at the front now. Sami Littmanen still leads Isaac Price by about 0.7 of a second, but Lagutskas He's trying to get past Isaac Price with everything that he's got. Currently holds the fastest split 1 and 2,
Pedro
both on different
Picanco
laps.
losing it under braking.
That's a bad place to spin. He's got to go on the grass, yeah, and just avoid all those cars coming through. Does so. Don't rejoin there. Oof. Okay, so yeah, that was a lucky gap that he found, but that's dropped him all the way down to 19th.
And he was fighting for the position of William Lima. So he lost 12 positions or so. Sorry, he was fighting with Victor Veloso, so 10 positions he lost. Final lap. We lost Yannick Katia.
Oh dear.
At the moment, though, Sami Littman are now in the lead, followed by Isaac Price, Vitautas Laguskas in P number 3 with Jan Makowski in P number 4. Stanislas Gabor in P5 with Energy Virtual Racing's William Lima in P6. Just rounding the final corner now.
Yeah, Isaac Price had a great race there, made it up 2 positions to P2, but Sami Littmanen wins the 5-lap sprint race, followed by Isaac Price. Vitautas Lagutskas will be in 3rd place there, Jan Vikowski P4. Gabor will be P5, William Lima P6, Levente Toth 7th, Victor Veloso 8th, Pauli Pascangas crossed the line in 9th. Then it's Sean Lee for Aerotech Racing in P10. Race Green Autosports Daniel Balla came across the line in P11. Energy Virtual Racing's Kai K. Paroppo in P12. Genuine Racing Nick Patola at P13. Born to Race Henry Vertinen in P14, followed by Viaduct Czech Lutsky in P15. Jari Katila for World Class Lions P16. David Godge in P17 for Team Rock Racing. Then it's B. Vincent in P18. Road Appraisers Pedro Picanco in P19, Conquest Racing's Arco or Vidoviarts in P20. Then it's Dujka in 21st, Lutsky, a different Lutsky. No, it is Lutsky.
That's Pavel.
Pavel Lutsky in P22. Sorry, my mistake. Then it's Michael Malik from Master Race Car in P23. Born to Races Ivashkevich in P24. Jeremiah Zanella for Team America in P25. Aerotax Ali Rabita Ibrahimian in P26. Dan Michel in P27. And finally, in P28, Yaroslav Donolik. So 3 non-finishes in that race. Unless there's a couple coming over the line.
It looks like we have 28 classifications all on the lead lap, which is what you'd expect with a short 5-lap sprint race. But the race time from Sami Littmanen, total of 5 laps, 5 minutes 39 seconds, 0.74, and 100ths of a second. The 4 value there at the end of the race time means that the top 14 cars will be reverse grid. So that means Born to Race's Henry Vertinen and Genuine Racing's Nico Puntola will be on row number 1 for the start of your 79-lap endurance race.
So finish row 1 for the second race. Will be interesting to see how Nico performs from so far up after he was in a very poor position earlier on.
The grid is just about to be set for race number 2, but what can Sami Littmanen do in the endurance race starting from P14 and Isaac Price in P13?
Well, we've seen all season long how both of them can get through the grid, especially with Isaac, who won the first round in Blackwood. Back then, top 18 reversed.
He definitely had his work cut out, and of course when we ran Blackwood last time around we had that tricky chicane to deal with as well. So you can argue over a lap basis, definitely the shortest layout that we're going to be running this season, but again over a race distance it's still the same, more laps for the shorter track. So Isaac's still got the same amount of time to carve his way through the grid, that be on getting his elbows out, trying to send it, or whether that be on strategy, because of course all plays a part in the endurance race.
It certainly does. And speaking of endurance races, it's 79 lap one, 90 minutes, beginning at 8 o'clock UTC. So we've got a quick break here of, well, we'll be back in 15 minutes, I'll say, unless you guys have got anything you want to say about the qualifying session and the first race.
I think that just to round off qualifying and race number one, we saw how hard it was for drivers to just get enough time to set an unhindered qualifying lap. We saw Yoni Katia regrettably struggling in qualifying when we think at least he should be in the top 10, the top 5 at least. Again, not finishing in race number one, Yoni Katia. He'll be wanting to do everything he can to get as many points as he possibly can from the endurance race that we have coming up in a few minutes. Of course, the race is scheduled to be on the hour. However, we will come back live if it happens to grid up a little sooner than we expect. So, yeah. Throw the mic over to you now, Tilo.
Yeah, qualifying race was very interesting. In the top spots, not much happened, but we saw a lot of drama with people being, yeah, thrown to the back of the grid, and we'll see how they are going to perform starting behind the top of the first race.
Race 2 coming up in around about 17 minutes time, we expect, but if we grid up sooner, we'll come back sooner. So don't go anywhere. See you very shortly for the start of race number 2, 79 laps around Blackwood, historic reversed in the XRR in Live for Speed. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Blackwood. We are here for the endurance part of tonight's event, and we're going to see Henry Virtanen in the pole position in just a bit. Jack, what are you expecting now for this very race up ahead?
Well, I'm expecting the faster guys from race number 1 that slot again, top 14 reverse from race 1. I think they're going to try and dice the pack up as soon as they possibly can. It seems that the sharper guys, of course, just from being faster in general, maybe just from clicking with the track a bit more or the car, they're going to want to do what they can. They're usually a bit more familiar with how the car handles on cold tyres, so whether that proves any benefit or not, we know that, again, towards the front of the grid, the grid spots are slightly steeper with it being further up the hill, so whether there's any traction gain from being a bit further back, we'll see, but we're going to see at least a stream of cars all slipstreaming and fighting over the inside line for turn number 6, but let's see how high Sami Litmanen and Isaac Price and co can climb in race number 2.
The drivers are getting ready now, standing here on the grid. Virtanen in front of Puntola, Piroppo, Balla, Shonley, Peltakangas, Veloso, Toth, Lima, and Gabor. Your top 10 as 2 lights, 3 lights are red. And green, we're away for the endurance round. Good start in the top positions.
Hopefully everybody's at least a little more cautious than in the sprint race. You know, the race is quite a lot longer here. 79 laps to be precise, and it's not won on the first lap or even the first corner, so
Yeah,
no
but tell
huge dramas yet.
But tell that those drivers. Up in front, Virtanen with an easy lead onto the back straight. He could defend his position very well there. As behind him, a 3-car train is now starting to shuffle around.
And we are 3 wide in the battle for 6th
Whoa!
position now.
As Sean Lee goes around the outside to take 2nd position from Nico Pontola and Kaike Piroppo.
Okay, Piroppo unfortunately pushed out to the right-hand side of the track there. Was able to get on the power a little earlier than Nico Pontola and he retains 3rd place, but Henry Virtanen across the line to complete lap 1, followed very closely by Sean Lee and Kaike Piroppo. Your top 3 for now. Isaac Price in P12, Sami Litmanen P13. Isaac Price standing up the inside of Levente Toth now. Around turn 2 up to 12. William Lima with a bit of a spin just ahead in the Energy Virtual Racing Machine. He manages to retain control of his car but drops a few positions back now. Isaac Price up to 10th.
Yeah, importantly, he's got the jump on Sami Litmanen, hasn't he? Because, he has the track position over Sami because of the reverse grid, and he needs to keep it there because the championship leader didn't have such a great round last round. Sami took maximum points, and Isaac is kind of playing catch up with himself as he makes it 3 wide ahead.
So Isaac trying to get maybe even 3 positions if he can get close to Victor Veloso on the brakes now as we approach turn 6 for the 2nd time, and look how late he is on the brakes. Incredibly committed and confident in his car to take 3 positions on that straight, the final of which into turn number 6. He's up to P7 now, gents, as there's a battle ahead with Tatas Lagutskas and Nico Puntola trying to get on the back of Pali Peltakangas now for P4.
And Nico is now going down the order, it seems. Starting the race in 2nd position after 2 1/3 of a lap. He is already down to 6th position.
Isaac Price has got Jan Mikowski between him and Sami Litmanen, and Isaac Price last time around took the fastest lap for good measure, so it just goes to show how committed he was into the final corner, and the draft he had along that back straight last time around went 2 tenths faster than the race leader last time around. As I think Lagutskas has got a run on Peltakangas now. They run side by side again, approaching turn number 6, where we expect to see the bulk of the overtaking done here, unless there is a mistake from either driver throughout the lap. Lagutskas on the outside, later on the brakes, gets the overlap done before the apex of the corner, is able to turn in an exit in 4th position. But Sean Lee's catching up to the back of Henry Vertinen now for the lead. The gap's 0.3 of a second. Sean Lee again last time around, a personal best. Not quite the fastest race lap, which Lagutskás took away from Isaac Price last time around. Vytautas Lagutskás in P4, catching up to the train of 3 that is your race leaders.
Yeah, Sean Lee with quite a few better apexes compared to Vertinen.
Yeah, he's able to carry a lot more speed on the exit there. You can see the gap has come down quite a bit, and they're almost side by side on the exit now as we run through turn 5 and up along the straight. I think Sean Lee's going to retain the lead for now, but Kaike Parapo and Henry Vertinen all fighting over that little bit of draft as we are again almost going to run 3 wide as Sean Lee closes the door for Kaike. Very close. These guys are on the limit.
3 continents racing each other there, with the driver from Singapore taking the top spot from the Finman and the Brazilian.
Kaike Parapo had a little look on the inside there as we approach turn number 1. A bit of a lift before he committed to the turn in, but he's bought that right-hander in Lagutskás around the outside of Kaike Parapo now as we run through turn number 2. So Sean Lee from Henry Vertinen, from Vytautas Lagutskás, Kaike Parapo and Pali Peltokangas are your top 5 at the moment, but Isaac Price is knocking on the door of the top 5 now. He's found himself in 6th position. Jan Bukowski all over the back of Isaac Price. Isaac Price again sets the fastest lap last time around, a 7.04. So, I mean, from at least all the laps that were set last time around, I think he's at least 3/10 clear of anybody.
He's being pushed.
Oh!
You could see just the speed difference from bump drafting on that back straight, and Peltokangas moved over to the left to cover the inside line at the last minute. You could see how Isaac had to react to that, but Kaike Parapo in the meantime, Peltokangas and himself have been battling. There's this contact there. Kaike Parapo took to the left-hand side, but caught Isaac Price's rear right, but going to run 2 wide through turn number 1 now. Very clean racing, accounting for each other in terms of room. Isaac was a bit over to the left-hand side on corner exit, but no contact was made, and Isaac now up into P4.
Yeah,
before the lead, as Sean Lee has to defend against Vytautas Lagutskás now. Lagutskás with a very nice set of corners now, and the big slipstream advantage coming ahead now.
Yeah, so if Lagutskás gets tuck into the back of Sean Lee's draft, even if he has to go the long way around the outside, he might just have the overlap done by the time we get to the end of the straight now, approaching turn number 6. Already doing 250 to 260 kilometers an hour at this point, around about 263 towards the end of the straight. As you can see, Vytautas Lagutskás again still with that outside line, just able to get the overlap done by the corner apex, and Lagutskás is your new race leader. Sean Lee down into P2 for air attack.
Yeah, nicely
And
done
Sean
there,
Lee
Jack. I
probably-
wanted to mention, sorry Tilo, I wanted to mention that Sami Lippinen, look where Sami Lippinen is compared to Isaac Price. Isaac Price in the top 3 now with the fastest lap, Sami down in P8.
You can see Isaac's definitely the one that's taking more risks than everybody else. He's definitely getting his elbow stuck out a bit more. We're only on lap 7 now. Isaac from P13 on the grids up to 3rd, and he's within a second and a half of the race leader. We know how incredible Isaac Price's strategy is and his time management. It's going to be very hard for anybody to bring it to him. Sami Lippinen needs to get himself ahead of at least the train of cars that are almost 3 wide on the back straight now. Sami Lippinen down in P8. He'd like to be at least in the top 5, if not right behind Isaac Price at this point, because there's about 2 seconds between Isaac Price and Sami Lippinen, but about 5 cars as well.
Yeah, Sami's looking at battle with he's got a teammate in there. Pauli Peltokangas is in that battle. Nick Matola's the car up ahead of him, and he needs to clear these guys as quickly as possible.
Peltokangas and Bukowski side by side across the line. They both look like they're going to stay committed for turn number 1. They're going to run side by side. Jan Bukowski again just had the inside line for that right-hander, but it's brought Sami Lippinen into the mix at least, because they're going to run side by side. Are Peltokangas and Nico Puntola at least on the entry for turn number 2. Sami Lippinen is losing time while ever he's behind these guys. Isaac Price is right on the back of Sean Lee now, who runs slightly wide out of turn 4. Through turn number 5 now. Isaac, you would say, is the favourite to take the move at the end of this straight. He's close enough for the draft, but if he doesn't time his run correctly, if he passes Sean Lee a bit too early, Sean Lee again will benefit from Isaac Price's draft further down the straight. Sean Lee, left-hand indicator on, almost giving the place to Isaac Price. He must know Isaac is on a mission, but Lagutskas out in the lead. Now, almost 2 seconds is the gap. How fast can Isaac Price bring that down? Isaac still retains the fastest lap of the race so far.
It was interesting to see that Isaac really lifted quite remarkably down the back straight, just to be in the right position for the braking zone of turn 6.
Yeah, we could have approached turn 6 in a very different way had he sent it a little earlier. Of course, Sean Lee had the opportunity to tuck back into the draft and attack further once we get a bit further down the straight, but Isaac Price at the moment has the position and has pulled about 6/10 on Sean Lee in just a few corners. The gap at the front now was around about 2 seconds at the line. It's come down 2/10 at least in sector 1. Isaac Price very controlled on the power through turn number 5, and you can just almost visually see how much he's pulled on Sean Lee in about 2 corners at least from where the last split line was. 0.84 is the gap from P2 to P3, so Isaac definitely on a mission now. He's in a bit of clean air.
Sami Litmanen meanwhile into 5th position, overtaking Jan Wikowski into turn 6. But the Polish man wants to counter, but it is too little for the turn 1 braking zone. But looking where Sami Litmanen is in terms of track position, he's not too far behind Isaac Price, just 2.01 seconds.
If he times his turn 5 correctly, he could potentially jump both cars. We've seen Sean Lee at least struggle a little out of turn number 5 in terms of traction. Looks like he's got away cleaner this time. Sami Litmanen definitely is going to take Henry Virtanen's 4th place away, but keep an eye on Jan Wikowski. Jan, at least for now, deciding to push the Sidus driver. But you can see, look how close they are catching up to Sean Lee. And we're going to see a late brake manoeuvre from Sami Litmanen. Sean Lee moves over to the left-hand side to almost cover the inside, but they're almost side by side at the apex. Sami Litmanen around the outside. Again, Jan Wikowski still on the back of the Sidus car in P number 5 at the moment.
I don't think that Sean Lee wanted to cover his position, but there is a very nasty bump where usually the barriers for the chicane are, and I think he wanted to put his car into a position that manages this bump a little bit better.
Well, we were said a couple of laps ago that Sami was struggling down in P8. Well, he's got up to P4, and he can still see Isaac very clearly just ahead of Sean Lee here. So even though he was 4 or 5 cars behind Isaac, he's actually dealt with this traffic remarkably well. I'd really be interested to know why the gap is so big anyway in the first place, as Jan Wikowski pushes Sami Litmanen again. These two working together down this back straight.
Jan Wikowski with a late brake manoeuvre puts him on the inside at least for turn 6, and the move has been made, so Sami Litmanen at least past Sean Lee, but has lost a position to Wikowski. What are they going to do when they cross the line? I assume Sami Litmanen's going to keep his nose in, try and make it work around the outside. Just doesn't have the speed that he needs to get on the inside for the right hand part of turn number 1, but the gap between Sami Litmanen and Isaac Price is about 2.5 seconds. Just a few laps ago, Isaac Price from P2 set again the fastest lap of the race, the only car to get into the 1:06s at the moment with a 1:06.94. The gap to the lead currently 1.7 seconds, so the Tautas Lagutskas out in the lead is no slouch, and he's not letting Isaac Price catch up to him without a fight.
One word I learned this past weekend is race time and management, and I think Sean Lee is not defending as much his position in the standings as he's just doing that.
battle for P12 right now between Daniel Balla and Pedro Picanco. Daniel Balla to the inside, defending that position. A bit of contact there between the Brazilian and Daniel there.
Daniel just able to get on the power a little bit better than Pedro Picanco for Road Appraisers back in P13. Daniel Balla has the position as they cross the line, but I imagine these two are going to continue battling. Michael Malek completes his drive through. You can see him just returning to the track there from the pit lane exit.
Oh. And he calls it a day. Michael Malek had an early pit stop just 2 laps ago, but received a penalty for speeding. Sadly, this was his race day already.
Clearly not fancying being a back marker and having to let cars through all afternoon, which is understandable, but a shame nonetheless. The gap between Isaac Price and Vytautas Lagutskas is holding relatively steady right now, matching pace of each other, but you'd have to say that the gap has come down since we last checked.
It seems to fluctuate a couple of tenths every other sector. Isaac Price seems to be the faster of the two in the later stages of this lap, so whether that's a different wing angle or a combination of different setup parameters, the gap at the moment across the line is 1.4 seconds, and Isaac Price again with the fastest lap of the race, taking, I think it was 4/100ths off his prior fastest lap to set a 1 minute 6.90. Vytautas Lagutskas exactly a tenth slower that time. That's a slow car off on the outside of turn number 5 now.
Yeah, and interestingly, it looked like Jan Wikowski backed out of it, or got a wobble on. He's dropped back significantly from Sami Litmanen now. I wonder what's gone on there. Look at the gap between Jan Wikowski and Sami Litmanen.
Yeah, something must have happened around the 0 mileage bridge.
Well, no, it was on camera. It was just before the corner before the back straight. Jan Wikowski pulled over to the left.
Yeah, something's definitely happened, because 9 tenths down is Jan Wikowski in sector 1.
Has he damaged his engine?
Doesn't seem to be the case. It sounds like it's outputting full power. It doesn't seem to be dropping back significantly on the straights. Keep an eye on him for this next lap. The gap between him and Sami Litmanen, 0.86 at the line. We'll see what it is when we complete sector 1.
Yeah, he lost over a second that lap. Well over a second.
So Wikowski's definitely dropping back from Sami Litmanen ever so slightly, but Sami Litmanen this time around, fastest sector 1 of anybody, 18.25 seconds on this lap, which is lap 15. So Jan Wikowski, I don't think hindered by any damage. Sami Litmanen's so fast. The gap from Sami to Isaac from P3 to P2 is about 3.1 seconds. Isaac Price again still retains about a 1.6 second deficit to your race leader. Isaac Price again takes another 100th off his fastest lap. Complete a 1 minute 6.89, which is then absolutely obliterated by Sami Litmanen in P3 with a 106.76. For quite a few drivers, at least everybody in the top 4 last time around in the 1 minute 6s. Sami Litmanen doing everything he can to bring that gap down. He wants the second step, maybe even the top step on the podium before the pit stops even come into play. We expect the pit window to be around about lap 45 to lap 60.
Maybe there's going to be again some very brave strategy of a non-tire change pit stop, or, well, zero stop strategy. We've seen that playing out remarkably well for Renato Becanco in the first race of the Buggyra 0 mileage GT Cup. However, I was told that due to the different cornering speeds, the tire life is much more affected than on the regular direction.
So we thought last time around Sami Litmanen with a belter of a lap. Well, Isaac Price again has just blown that out of the water with a 1 minute 6.59, and that's about just shy of half a second faster than your race leader, so the gap at the front now, 0.84 of a second. Isaac Price definitely honing in on your race leader. Not sure if we'll see a change of position just yet, but as Isaac Price gets closer to the back of Vitatas Lagutskas out in the race lead, that draft, the aero effect of the huge hole that the rear wing of this car punches into the air. Isaac Price, again, the closer he gets, he gains more top speed at the end of the straight. The 0.55 seconds is the gap. See how much later Isaac Price is on the brakes. Of course, these cars do close up when we get towards the apex of the corner. Of course, the car's going a lot slower. I think the gap at the line is going to be just shy of half a second. It is just over 0.53 of a second, but Isaac Price again on 1 minute 6.87. Fastest man on track last time around, but not fast enough to improve on his prior fastest lap of 1 minute 6.59.
And in the top 5, Lagutskas was the slowest car the last lap round. Not sure if he had a mistake or that his traffic or the traffic he had to face hindered him at some point, as Isaac Price is now in the slipstream. Just at the bare end of it.
Yeah, he might just about be in it next time round. He's not going to be in it. He's not in it enough to make a move into this corner, but he's closing the gap every single lap.
These guys are going to be bumper to bumper this time next lap. Exactly what Isaac Price can do. Vitatas Lagutskas purple in sector 1 this time around with an 18.25, the fastest of anybody. Well, I say the fastest of anybody, actually mirrors Sami Litmanen's sector 1 from lap 15. Looking out in P3 at the moment, still about 3.7 seconds away from Isaac Price. The gap's not coming down from P3 to P2, and Sami Litmanen's not necessarily pulling away from Jan Bukowski as much as he'd like to. The gap's still 0.8 of a second between P3 and P4. The top 5 have at least a little bit of a window, with Pelter Kangas is 3.6 seconds clear of Sean Lee in P6. So again, as we ride on the bonnet cam of Isaac Price, you can just see the gap 0.42 of a second at the split, which is about 2/3 of the way down.
As we see Nico Puntola passing Levente Toth into turn 6, but it looks like the Hungarian is now side by side again. On the outside for turn 1. Difficult braking zone side by side, so Nico Puntola keeps P7 and tries to get around the Singapore driver in front of him, which seems to create now somewhat of a Sean Lee train, with all cars from 6th down to 10th.
Levente and Nico Pantola working together here to try and close the gap to Sean Lee. Seems to be working, but I don't know, maybe Sean got away a little bit in the last lap, these two holding each other up. Our attention turns to the front once again, as Vitatas Lagutskas is now having his mirrors completely filled with the similarly red car of himself.
It looks as though Vitatas Lagutskas last time around was incredibly strong throughout the entire lap, apart from the traction out of turn 6 was where Isaac Price took the majority of the time out of Lagutskas. The gap at the line was about 0.18 of a second, so just shy of 2/10, whereas the last sector, at least, Lagutskas was around about a tenth and a half faster than Isaac Price, so the gap's gone back up to around about half a second. But Sami Litmanen, still blasting out these fastest laps, has retaken the fastest split number 1 last time around and the fastest lap for good measure. Sammy Littmanen, 2.6 seconds behind Isaac Price now. It was about 3.7 just a few laps ago, so if Isaac Price can't find a way around Vytautas Lagutskas, or both of them together can't get their heads down, Sammy Littmanen's going to join in for this fight.
This is fascinating stuff. We did wonder if Sammy Littmanen had dropped quite a lot off the pace, but yeah, it looks like this battle at the front. It might not look like much of a battle to you guys watching at home, but every single time that Isaac Price closes up to the back of Vytautas' car, there will be some negative aero effects into corners, and he's not able to make it back up on the long straight because of just how well Lagutskas is getting an exit out of the corner he just went round.
Jan Bukowski, also a man on a mission, trying to just stay on the back of Sammy Littmanen, mirrors the fastest Sector 1 time this time around from Sammy Littmanen just a lap ago. Both of these are going to end up closing up to your race leader and the man in second place. Sammy Littmanen again sets a purple split number 2 of a 27.92. That's again mirroring Jan Bukowski's fastest Sector 2, down to the 100th on lap 10 by the man in 4th position. We're on lap 22 though now, so as the tyres get past the heat peak and the fuel continues to drain out of the car, the cars can just go faster and faster as Sammy Littmanen again sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 6.44. Just for context, the leaders last time around, Vytautas Lagutskas, 2/10 slower, and Isaac Price again a further 10th shy of Sammy Littmanen's pace in P3. So that gap is definitely coming down, gents. Sammy Littmanen only 2.3 seconds from Isaac Price and shy of 3 seconds from your race leader.
Top 5 still within 8 seconds, which, considering that we are already on lap 23, is quite remarkable. And behind Pauli Peltokangas, there is the big gap down to Nico Puntola, who took the lead of the Sean Lee train.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to say Sean Lee was around about 4 seconds behind Peltokangas just a few laps ago, but it looks as though Genuine Racing's Nico Puntola has made his way up into P6. He's got half a second over Sean Lee. Levente Toth also will be trying to size Sean Lee up as Sammy Littmanen goes fastest once again, smashing the fastest lap after lap. And again, to put it into context, Vytautas Lagutskas last time around a 1 minute 6.95, Sammy Littmanen in P3 a 1 minute 6.41, and sets the fastest lap in sets the fastest split in Sector 1 this time around. So again, P3 to P2 now under 2 seconds. Jan Bukowski attempting to tag along behind Sammy Littmanen, however he's dropping back just a little bit. Still faster than the leaders though is Jan Bukowski in P4. You can see the cars all trying to benefit from each other's slipstream, at least down the straight. Isaac again about 0.38 of a second away from Lagutskas, so he'll feel a little bit of the draft, but not enough to make a move from that far back.
Yeah, Lagutskas' car is accelerating out of the corners remarkably well.
Do you reckon it's a differing setup, or is it just the driving styles of these two drivers?
I think it's just the fact. I think Isaac Price is slightly hindered by the draft or the aero drop kind of effect throughout the initial part of the lap, but he just can't get the traction out of turn 5 to get close enough to overtake Lagutskas. At least from what it looked like through the right hander there. Number 3, Isaac was a little more committed as the gap's 0.38 as we round turn 5, using all of the curb on the right hand side of the track for Isaac as he's doing his best to close up to Lagutskas, but Sammy Littmanen still setting almost personal best Sector 1s. Isaac Price and Vytautas Lagutskas, P1 and 2, separated by only 100th of a second in Sector 1. And look how close Isaac Price is at the apex of turn 6 now. Lagutskas, again, like you said last lap, Tilo, just able to benefit in the traction zones and get his car away from turn 6 a lot better than Isaac Price can.
I don't remember the last time.
A personal best 1 minute 6.62.
I don't remember the last time I saw such a consistent show of getting great corner exits just where he needs it. As we head past the back marker there, Yeah, there's nothing to tell between these two drivers. And there's Sami Litmanen in the background. He's catching. There could be a three-way fight on for the lead of this race unless Isaac Price can find a way past the last lap motorsports driver.
Yeah, indeed, Sami Litmanen is catching the pair of them. The gap from third to the lead is under 2 seconds now.
And again, you could see how Isaac's accelerating out of the corner.
And we've got a battle on for 10th position now as Pedro Picanco moves to the left-hand side of Henry Verton and looks as though he has the manoeuvre done before we even approach the braking zone, but Henry Verton late on the brakes, you could see he locked that rear axle just a little bit, sent the car a little bit out of shape, had to put a bit of opposite lock on and let the brake off for the car to come back to him. Not able to challenge into turn number 1, but Pedro Picanco now up to P10. As Levente Toth has managed to get around Sean Lee, William Lima for Energy Virtual Racing is going to be sizing that air attack driver up in the next few corners and attempting to do exactly what Nico Puntola and Levente Toth have done.
But look at that gap from first to second. It's grown again. Isaac nowhere near close enough into the braking zone that time around, and Sami Litmanen is well and truly in this fight as Isaac drops even further back now. I don't think he got a particularly good entry or exit from the final corner there, and yeah, that gap has increased dramatically.
Lagutskas now has seemed to get himself into a bit of a rhythm and has at least responded to the pace advantage of the guys a bit further down the grid. Lagutskas last time around sets the fastest lap of anybody so far with a 1 minute 6.37. Takes the fastest split number 2 as well, just a lap prior. The gap between Lagutskas and Isaac Price was sitting around about 0.4 of a second for at least the last 5 or 6 laps. It's now a few tenths more than that. But Levente Toth seems to have made a move on Genuine Racing's Nico Puntola for 6th position. Sean Lee still in the mix of this, and William Lima for Energy Virtual Racing at least rounds out the 4-car train that we have. P6.
And that 4-car train actually is still together. And we see why, because then suddenly a 3-car bump draft assisted group approaches the next braking zone.
To see how late Sean Lee was on the brakes there, trying to defend from William Lima on the outside, manages to get the car stopped, slowed down for turn 6 and on the power.
Can I just say one thing? That this is amazing what we're watching here. We've got Nico Puntola, a Finn, Sean Lee from Singapore and William Lima from Brazil, all racing bumper to bumper with no problems. This is something special right now.
Yes, indeed. The Hungarian Levente Toth is just ahead of those.
Just want to let you know now, we'll keep an eye on the battles towards the back. We'll probably keep the cameras focused on where the action is, but Sami Litmanen is now within a second of Isaac Price. Doesn't look like any of the positions for at least the top 3 are going to change at the moment.
Just talking about the top 3, Jack, look at the gap between those 3 guys now. It's all come back to nothing. Isaac's he's hit a brick wall. He's not been able to get past the consistency of Lagutskas, and that's let Sami Litmanen drag up behind.
Yeah.
And is it possible that Isaac's taken too much out of his tyres, or?
Well, I had a look at the tyre life of Isaac Price, and at least the surface temperatures and the wear look pretty reasonable, nothing to worry about. But Sami Litmanen's just been consistently doing 1 minute 6.5, so mid 6s to low 6s, whereas Lagutskas last time around are 7 dead, and Isaac Price is a 1 minute 6.8. Sami Litmanen definitely taking about 2 to 3 tenths a lap out of the race leaders. Yeah,
Sami Litmanen with the best tyres of the top 3. He lost a little bit to Isaac Price, but that was because the 3 leaders have lapped the car of Dan Michel.
So too wide we run now in the battle for P11. Daniel Ballot trying to get around Energy Virtual Racing's Kaike Piroppo as we approach turn number 6. Daniel looks to have made the move at least before the braking zone, just aided by that draft, able to not really worry about Kaike Piroppo on the outside there. So Daniel Ballot up into P11, Kaike down into P12. Kaike needs to hit his marks and stay on the back of Daniel Ballot and not fall further back into path of the Team Rock Racing car in P13. Rising up for a 3-way battle now, with a spot just outside the top 10. Henry Virtanen in the top 10, just around about a second clear of these 3. Looked to be a little bit of a mistake there for Gotch for Team Rock Racing in P13. It looks as though Daniel Ballard and Kaike Piroppo are the only 2 left in this battle for P11. You can see Kaike is about as far away as Isaac was on Vytautas Lagutskas, about 0.4 of a second. He's not able to do anything from that far back. We will focus our attention again towards the front of the grid as Sami Litmanen has 100% joined in this 3-way fight for the lead now. Sami Litmanen from P3 now has only a 1.1 second deficit from your race leader, and only 0.4 of a second to Isaac Price, who slots into the middle of this 3-way fight for the lead now. Round in turn 5, Sami Litmanen very, very early and nice and controlled on the power out of turn 5. Arguably the closest he's been to Isaac Price this entire race, after having at least a few cars between Isaac and himself in the opening stages of this race. We're on lap 32 of 79 now. Sami Litmanen 0.4 down from Isaac Price. Again, only a second shy of the race lead, so sizing up for a huge battle as Isaac Price goes a little deep into turn 6, misses the apex by a couple of meters. It won't have hindered him too much, but you can definitely see the gaps come down quite significantly.
Yeah, so much so that the gap between Isaac and Sami is smaller than the gap between Isaac and Lagutskas. But will it be Sami's turn to struggle with similarly paced cars around him?
Yeah, I don't know if Sami's going to struggle, but these 2 are at least ahead of him now, starting to set personal best lap times. Lagutskas last time around a 1 minute 6.33, a personal best for him. Isaac Price again about 2/10 down on P1 with a personal best of a 1 minute 6.57. Sami Litmanen though slots in the middle, a 1 minute 6.45, not a personal best from him. Of course, Sami Litmanen still holds the fastest race lap, a 1 minute 6.27. Over Vytautas Lagutskas very close to the race best lap. Isaac Price around about 3/10 down on the pace that he needs to take the fight to the man in first.
The top 5 are currently the only drivers who can go these mid-6 times, as Picanco and Sean Lee are now fighting side by side. Probably half the diameter of the Earth, not the diameter, the circumference of the Earth between those 2, and they are racing wheel to wheel.
Yeah, Picanco then forced to the outside as Sean Lee got on the power early and tried to close the door. Picanco suffered a little bit of wheel spin. That's William Lima. That is Dan Michel as well,
yeah,
in P29, the lapped car, unfortunately tangling with the man who was at least in the top 10. Yeah, William Lima, unfortunately his endurance race is over. He disconnects from the server, so only 28 cars remain on track at the moment. I'm going to keep an eye on the gaps between at least the top 4 now, because I think there's not much that Isaac Price and Sami Litmanen can do to get, at least closer to one another. It looks as though everybody's separated by about 0.4 to 0.5 of a second. Jan Bukowski, the last time around, mirrored Sami Litmanen's pace.
Oh, Sami Litmanen. Did he go down one too many gears there? Sounds like he over-revved his XRR.
Not quite sure, as there's a battle in the final corner for P10 at least. There was a little bit of contact at the apex between Kake Propo and Daniel Balla, as I think they both locked the rear axle just from applying a bit too much brake pressure. Kake Propo has the position for now, stays in P10. Daniel Balla doing his best to stay on the back of that Energy Virtual Racing machine. They were separated by about 0.2 of a second at the line. We look a bit further back. Jari Katila and Nico Puntola's down there as well. So as Nico stopped,
he was in pits. He was in the pits.
Yeah, Nico Puntola did stop for 17 seconds to refuel and change all 4 tyres. But you can see this might have thrown a spanner in the works in terms of strategy, as he's down in P21 now. Got a bit of traffic to deal with Oviats and Joni Katia battling it out for P20 and P19 now.
Sean Lee side by side with Pedro Picanco out of the final corner onto the home straight. Great to see these two racing together, wheel to wheel, and nothing between them as we head up to start finish. Absolutely fantastic racing up and down the field so far this race, and I think it's safe to say that this is the closest top 3 after almost half the race that I've seen in a very long time.
Well, you say top 3, but it could be top 4 in just a few laps' time. Jan Bukowski from 4th position last time around, fastest lap of the race, and was about half a second faster than the Sidus driver in P3. Gap, though, at the moment between Jan Bukowski in P4 and Sami Lipmanen in P3 is just over 3 seconds. So he's going to need to consistently hit those low to mid 1 minute 6s in order to catch up to the pack of 3. There's your race leaders now.
Just hearing
And
in
we're
my
getting
ear, so take it away, Tilo.
I think we wanted to say the same. We're getting reports from Elmo that it sounds like Sami Lipmanen is indeed suffering from engine damage.
He still retains about a 0.7 of a second deficit from Isaac Price. It's definitely the highest that it's been in the last 3 laps. So we'll size up at least what his top speed is at the end of the straight, which is, apart from audibly listening for the engine damage, is really the only way to try and determine.
Ooh, Nico Pantola getting very sideways and waywards there as he lets Jari Katila through over start finish. The two Katillas are having a great race. Joni Katila more so at the moment than Jari, because Joni started 3rd to last. He retired from the sprint race, started right at the back, and he's already up to P17. So that's quite good going from the back.
So again, it's not 100% that Sami Lipmanen has any engine damage. If it is any engine damage, it is going to be around about 1 to 2%, which will hinder the top speed on the straight. However, looking at Isaac Price's top speed,
I don't think it'll be that much, but it will still affect him. It's very if you had 2% engine damage, it would be. Yeah. I think we'd.
Well, I can't audibly hear it, and Isaac Price's top speed at the end of the straight last time around was about 256 kilometers an hour. Sami Lipmanen 259, and Isaac was closer to Lagutskas in the draft, so to speak. So whether Sami Lipmanen's running a little less winged, we'll have a look again. Isaac Price 256 kilometers per hour. Sami Lipmanen just ticked over to 258, so it doesn't look like there's at least any obvious straight line speed disadvantage for Sami Lipmanen. So if he does have any engine damage, it is very, very minor, and it shouldn't affect him too much because he is hanging on to the back of the Isaac Price. Isaac Price's gap to Sami Lipmanen about 0.6 of a second, and again 0.6 from Isaac Price to your race leader.
Kake Piroppo and Henry Virtanen are side by side now, approaching turn 6 as Daniel Balla is looking at to add his car into the mix.
A little bit of a benefit of the draft as we run up to the start finish line. They're going to be side by side as we enter turn number 1, both trying their best to account for each other being there in terms of track space, but a bit of contact on the initial downhill left hand part of turn number 1 where the track drops away from you. We saw a bit of door banging, but Daniel Balla has taken 10th place away from Henry Virtanen. Only 0.7 of a second behind Kaike Propo for P9, so Daniel Balla attempting to at least follow or overtake the Energy Virtual Racing car in P9 at the moment. Henry Virtanen seems to have dropped back around about a second to Daniel Balla after the contact at turn 1. So now, if we just switch to the race leader, you can see just the amount of traffic that the leading pack, or at least the top 3, have caught up to at this stage in the race. Vytautas Lagutskas, race leader, just behind Jaroslav Donelik, the man in P23. Of course, Vytautas Lagutskas will not necessarily mind that he has to overtake a car on the straight. He can benefit from the draft at least until he gets alongside and past the lapped traffic. Isaac Price and Sami Littmanen again will have the same benefit should they encounter a lapped car towards the straight, but Vytautas Lagutskas, at least for turn 6, looks as though he's pulled a bit of a gap on Isaac Price. It's 0.8 of a second and 0.7 back to Sami Littmanen, so when traffic gets introduced, it can either spread the top 3 out or it can bring them close together depending on the circumstances. At the moment, at least your top 5, we just started lap 41. Vytautas Lagutskas leads by less than a second from Isaac Price, and again less than a second from Sami Littmanen in P3. About 2.5 seconds back to Jan Bukowski in P4. He's trying to get his car into the battle for the podium positions. We've got Pauli Peltokangas in P number 5. We'll run down the top 10 at least. Levente Toth in P6. Pedro Picanco for Roda Prezes in P7. Energy Virtual Racing's Kaike Propo in P8, with Race Green Autosports Daniel Balla in P9, and Born to Race's Henry Virtanen round out at least your top 10 for now.
Someone who just was within the top 10 but is dropping out of it now is Sean Lee. Halfway through the race, he's doing his only pit stop for the race. And he slots back in behind Radek Lutsky for Viaduct Czech Racing Team.
We are over the halfway stage. Take it away, Jack.
Sorry, Jan Bukowski's brought the gap from himself and Sami Littmanen down to about 2.5 seconds now. This lap traffic is definitely helping him. Again, at least the top 3 seem to be retaining the same gaps that they have from one another for at least the last 10 or 15 laps. There's Ali Reza and Sean Lee, both air attack drivers, trying to fight as we approach turn number 6. Sean Lee on the inside. Looks like Ali Reza struggled to get the power down out of turn number 6, but with the aid, well, I'm not sure, it must have just been good luck there. Seemed to have pulled the position back as we approach turn number 1. Very close, these two teammates run together.
Has Ali Reza pitted? Because obviously Sean Lee has, and if that means...
No, he has not.
It doesn't look like Ali Reza has pitted. There is a little bit of rear left damage, so whether he was hindered by some contact, at least in the earlier stages of the race. You can see Sean Lee flashing his headlights there at his teammate just up ahead, saying, don't back me up any further. He's got Yoni Katir on the back of him now as Sean Lee. Yoni Katir down in 17th place.
Yeah, and don't forget, Jack,
on this trio.
Don't forget that Nick Patola also has made a pit stop, and Sean Lee has jumped him in the pits. He's actually made up quite a big advantage. Remember that Sean would have needed to take on slightly less fuel because he was he went longer into the race before stopping, so that could be partly responsible for what's happened there.
Yeah, but Sean Lee now under attack from Yoni Katir, who has the outside line. Who's going to get it slowed down? You can see Yoni Katir managed to get it slowed down and turned in at least as much as he needed to, but Sean Lee early on the power and the traction was on his side, able to claw back 15th position. And he seems to have dropped back a bit from his teammate now. The gap's about 0.7 of a second, and these were bumper to bumper this time last lap.
More and more cars are diving down the pit road. Radek Lutsky, Jari Katir, among others. as the top three are now going slalom through the midfield.
We lose another driver.
Ivashchevkevich is out of the race.
You're right when you said it was going to be a top four. I think Jan Mikowski is, well, he's holding station, isn't he? And with just under half the race to go, is looking set for a titanic scrap to the finish of this one.
It looks as though he's dropped back around about 7/10 of a second in the last two laps, because the gap from Jan to Sami Litmanen was under 3 seconds and it's now about 3.5. So whether again Jan's just been unlucky with the traffic management on the last couple of laps, the gap across the lines 3.6 seconds from P4 to P3. But just looking at the pit stop time differences between Sean Lee and Nico Puntola, initially when Nico Puntola stopped, I think it was, let me just double check here. Well, Sean Lee's pit stop was only 13.22 seconds and he didn't choose to take any fuel, it was just tyres. Nico Puntola's pit stop I think was around about 25 seconds.
That was Nico Puntola getting lapped by Isaac Price then, so the leaders making their way past P15. But there's still nothing to choose between these three.
So sorry, just to correct that, Sean Lee's pit stop was just for tyres no fuel, 13.22 seconds, and it looks as though I can find it again. It was fuel and tyres for Nico Puntola, and I think there was about a 5-second difference there, so that's where the undercut comes from. Sean Lee now finds himself in P12 with Nico Puntola down in P15, and there's about just shy of 10 seconds between them now. Nico, unfortunately, looks as though he's been held up by a little bit of traffic. Johnny Katia has a run on Sean Lee for air attack. This is the battle for P12. You can see there's a couple of lapped cars just ahead that Yanni Katila can benefit from in terms of draft. It's going to get tight when we get into the braking zone for turn number 6 though. Sean Lee, very late apex, very committed as well, carried a lot more apex speed. It's just Yanni was very, very confident getting on the power out of turn 6. Yanni moves up into P number 12. Sean Lee down into P13. But there's only a Levante Toth between Sean Lee and Nico Puntola, but the gap, again, 9.87 seconds, and that's just amplified the advantage Sean Lee had by stopping for a little less.
Taking a look at the battle for 8th position, Gabor is now side by side with Daniel Balla and braking into the hairpin in 8th position. Next target ahead is Kaike Piroppo.
Yeah, nice move that, textbook. And he's making his way through the field quite nicely as Gabor. Nice tyres, nice low fuel. Oh wow. Lower fuel than he had at the start, let's put it that way.
So regrettably, Jan Mikowski's seeming to drop back even further from the top 3. The gap is now over 5 seconds. Vitatas Lagutskas, Isaac Price and Sami Litmanen all again within about 1.5 seconds of each other. There's about 6 or 7 tenths in front and behind of Isaac Price's Vitatas Lagutskas and Sami Litmanen. All three of them seem to be at least fluctuating by a couple tenths, dealing with the lap traffic.
Ooh, yeah, and Jan Mikowski runs into the back of one of the lap traffic. There's an exchange of horns. That didn't help him at all. Henry Vertinen, meanwhile, is making a move on Vodoviarts. What did you have, Tilo?
Just wanted to point out that in this stage of the race, the traffic management is a huge factor for the top 3 or the top group.
Yeah, but they've all done remarkably well. They've stayed pretty close together. If anything, Sammy's dropped back a bit and Isaac's got closer, but there's just nothing to tell between them. They are absolutely stalemate at this point in the race. Very impressive stuff.
Yeah, and for either of them to get close enough out of turn 5 to make the move where we'd expect it to happen at the end of the long straight, just into turn number 6, these guys must be hindered slightly with the draft effect, maybe going a few kilometers an hour faster into a corner than they used to. They just can't get close enough in the initial part of the lap to get the run out of turn 5 and attack into 6. Just looking at the difference between the tyres on at least the front 3, it looks as though, at least for Lagut's his tyres look healthy apart from that front right, but that's not necessarily the one that we'd worry about. All 3 of the top runners look very, very close together in terms of tyre life and surface temperature.
3 cars
must be
in the
running
pits,
similar
Jack.
in terms of pressures and cambers and whatnot.
The 3 cars in the pits that are Daniel Balla, Gabor, and David Godge. They are all fighting for position, actually. First one to get away, it's Gabor. Second Balla, but Balla with a slightly shorter pit stop.
Yeah, Gabor stopped first. Yeah, Daniel Balla. Yeah, he's pulled some sort of alternate strategy here because he's managed to get out ahead even though he came in after. So good effort there, whatever he's planning. It seems to be working because he's come out in P12. That's impressive.
It looks like we've lost another participant in this race as well. Air Attacks Ali Razor has unfortunately lost connection to the race. As Lagut's sets the fastest lap of anybody, 1 minute 6.05. So, I mean, he's aided by the draft of Levente Toth down the back straight, so he's going to gain at least a few kilometres an hour. You can see this is the fastest I've seen him, at least on this straight, 262 kilometres per hour at the end of it. Unfortunately, he's got Zanella on the apex of turn 6, a lapped car hindering him slightly this time around. Who's going to be the first man to break into the 1 minute 5s in race trim? Yeah, Lagut's was looking very, very fast until we reached turn 6, as that's a car just off. That's Dan Michael again in P24, just on the outside of turn 1.
Dan Michael in the same place as we've seen him already today. Especially the incident he had earlier with the Energy Virtual car.
Jan Wachowski now in P4, the gap was about, well, it was originally just under 3 seconds and then it skyrocketed up to about 5. It's now 7.5. But these top 3 again, still incredible pace and setting fastest laps again. Lagut's well, let's look at the fastest splits and laps for a start. Lap 48, Isaac Price, fastest sector 1. Again, the same lap. 2, Vitautas Lagut's fastest of the race on lap 48, and then on lap 49 Vitautas Lagut's took the overall fastest lap. But this is where the heat peaks finished and the tyres are on the way out, but of course as the tyres degrade and live for speed, the performance of them doesn't necessarily change. And of course we know that the entire race the fuel's been coming out of these cars, so they've just been getting lighter and lighter every corner they turn. Isaac Price now again closer to Lagut's than Sammy Littman, and it's the back of the 3 Sammy Littman, and potentially hindered by a lapped car at least for the initial part of this lap. He finds himself 1.2 seconds down on the leading pair.
Top 8 still have to pit. Car currently in 8th position, that's Yannick Katia. Okay. Currently leading the race, Vitautas Lagut's from Isaac Price and Sami Littmanen. 4th position, currently the conquest car of Jan Wikowski.
He pits. He's in the pit still.
Well, that was on point.
Yeah. The first of our top guys have pitted, and that promotes Pauli Peltikangas to 4th place. So 2 Sidus cars in the top 5. But how will Jan fare when he rejoins? Because it's all about where he comes out in traffic, isn't it, Tilo and Jack?
Of course, he'll not want to be hindered too much when he's getting back up to speed. We've seen at least Nico Puntola when he was jumped by the air attack car. Sean Lee, the number 88, who sits in P9 at the moment. The gap between those two is coming down a bit, but the 4 or 5 second advantage that Sean Lee had in the pits, with the aid of where he came out in terms of track position, gained him about 15 seconds. So it's crucial that Jan Wikowski gets out on track into some space, and it looks like he has done so.
Yeah, that's very well timed. He has got a bit of traffic, but hopefully it's kind to him. This is the most important part of Jan Wikowski's race. He's in P6. He's got a solid position here, and he has every opportunity to. He could possibly win this race if he gets his head down and keeps pumping in good laps. Who knows what will happen with the top three? They're so close to each other. Maybe they'll trip up in the pit stop. Maybe they'll have some backmarker trouble, as we see Isaac Price getting close to the back of. Is that air attack Sean Lee? Yes, it is. He gets past. Sean now with the other indicator on to what he had before. So yes, Tilo, you were at Jan Wikowski, who was in P4 before we got interrupted by him pitting rather rudely.
Yeah.
He's now up to P5.
But he's moving up there. He's up
Yeah.
to P5, yes.
Pedro's now pitted, so people are pitting as soon as you want to do your run down the order.
That's very rude, especially
Very rude.
from Pedro Picanco, as he was one of the drivers trying a zero-stop strategy in the first Blackwood race.
Yeah, he's not gone for that strategy.
I mean,
He's
I
learned
was
his lesson.
talking to Isaac a little bit just before the race, and just asking if he feels the tyre wear is going to be similar to round one. Of course, we're running a reverse configuration here for round 6. However, we miss out the chicane that's part of the GP track, and Isaac said that he believes the tyre wear is going to be a little more than it was in round 1. So again, doesn't look like the zero stopper is possible. Although I have been surprised before.
So continuing where I left, currently in 4th position, Pauli Peltokangas for Sidus. Jan Wikowski, as we were talking about him, currently in 5th position as he waits for the top guys to pit. In 6th position, Energy Virtual Racing's Victor Veloso, followed by Yannick Katia, who recovered very well so far, 23 positions gained, but he has still to do his pit stop. Pedro Picanco in 8th position after pitting. 9th position, Sean Lee for Aerotech Newsroom. Levente Toth in 10th position. Race Green's Daniel Balla, just ahead of Genuine Racing's Nico Puntola in 11th position. Gabor for Sidus in 13th. Kaike Piroppo for Energy Virtual Racing in 14th. Harry Vertonen in 15th position. Team Rock Racing's David...
Yeah, we're just going to cut back to the race lead. There's going to be a change for the race lead by the looks of it. The two side by side. Lagutz had the draft of Bob Vincent there, the lapped car, but Isaac Price challenge him for that lead. He's going to attempt the manoeuvre around the outside. Look how late he brakes. Looks as though he's committed to the pit lane at this point.
Yes.
What a perfect pit entry that was. They're going to be very close when they both complete their stop, but it's all where Isaac Price can rejoin the track now from P number 2 as he again manages
Sammy
to get
pits.
the car slowed down just in time. Sammy Littmanen follows suit.
Pulls up into
Price
the first pit box. Nice.
Manages to jump into the pit box without having to accelerate or lock up too much. Perfect stop for him. Let you know exactly what the times are.
Sammy.
Peltokangas in the pits as well.
Sorry.
Both Sidus cars in the pit lane. Well, 2 of the 3. So Isaac with a 18.24 second stop, fuel and all tyres. Sammy Littmanen 18.23, so 100th of a second in it. But I think Isaac had the cleaner of the approaches to the pit box. He looked as though Sammy was a bit hesitant, slowing down, become stationary to start his pit stop.
Lagutz has his right indicator on, which must mean one thing. Oh, almost gets tangled up with the World Class Lions car there. The pit entry is certainly more tricky in the configuration of this track that doesn't have the chicane, because you end up closing up. You want to carry a bit more speed into the hairpin, don't you? And you can't, because there's cars braking on the outside there as Lagutskas pits from the lead of the race.
Yeah, Yoni Katia also in the pits for World Class Lions as well. Only down in P9.
So it's all eyes then on Isaac Price. He's approaching the final corner of the championship leader. Looking set to score a very nice result here if it all goes his way. Will he come out ahead, or will the Gutskas have pipped him? And then how quickly can the Gutskas get his tyres up to temperature?
Very fast stop. It was about half a second faster than Isaac Price's pit stop last time around, but don't forget Isaac Price's tyres are already more up to temperature than Vitautas Lagutskas' tyres. We'll get an exact gauge on the split times again in just a second.
Considering that Isaac was all over,
retains the lead though,
all over the back of Lagutskas when he went into the pits. Yeah, that half a second faster pit stop by Lagutskas there has made all the difference. He's able to keep it out ahead.
0.93 of a second is the gap, and of course Vitautas Lagutskas will have the draft of Yoni Katia for the initial part of this straight before he gets past. Isaac Price is without a draft partner for now, so Lagutskas again, while he is hindered a little bit by the tyres being cold, of course he's on his outlap right now, he has the benefit of the draft down the straight to claw a bit of that time back.
I think Yoni helped Isaac there. You know, the face on the front of that car that Isaac's driving is Yoni Katila. I think Yoni was doing a good thing there for his buddy, and moving over to give him some draft to help close that gap down.
0.98 of a second was the gap at the first split, 0.97 was the gap on the back straight, and across the start finish line 0.83. So again, Isaac was helped by Yoni, whether that was intentional or not. You can see the gap is coming down. But again, I don't think Isaac will get close enough to make a move unless something catastrophic happens. We see that 0.4 is about how close you can get to the car ahead, unless there's a significant pace difference.
But one must assess that the biggest loser from the top battle seems to be Sami Litmanen, who is now down 3 seconds from the leader.
Yeah, I think
had a decent stop time, but I think his approach to his pit box and just the whole pit lane aspect of the stop in general hindered him in terms of time, because of course you can lose a tenth in the pit lane, but when you're not up to full speed, it's sort of amplified because the margins are so small. Yeah, 3 seconds is the gap from Sami Litmanen to Isaac Price, and it's going up.
Look at the gap also to Jan Wikowski, who stopped a few laps earlier than this lot. Jan Wikowski is looking...
Well, he's 8 seconds shy of P3.
Yeah, with 20 laps to go, it's not looking great for all the Japan fans out there. Jan Wikowski.
We're looking for the battle for P11 now. Race Green's Daniel Balla under attack from the sidest driver of Gabor. Makes it look effortless.
There's about 3 too many L's in that. Oh, it got quite close there with the back marker of Michal there. Michal, sorry.
Daniel Balla just had a bit of his right rear tyre over the curb there on the exit. I could hear the wheel spin just a bit. He's going to drop back a bit further from Gabor now, who again challenged for that position on the straight last time and pulled it off. Daniel Balla now down in P12. As Gabor runs slightly wide out of turn number 1, you could see how sideways his car was on exit there. The gap's going to come down a bit, and it looks as though he's suffering from some rear tyre temperature or just some dirt on his tyres. It looks as though from the tyre graph the inside of his front left and the inside of his front right are hotter than they need to be. As Vidoviat's there is just recovering, that's where the yellow flag was from just then. You can see the car just on the left trying to rejoin, but Daniel Balla all over the back of Gabor now. It might be a change for position at the end of this straight. He's close enough to take advantage of the draft. But again, looking at Daniel Balla's tyres, the inside of his front left especially is way too hot than it needs to be. So whether that is just the setup of the car, maybe too much camber or just too much lock in the corners, could also account for maybe locking the brakes, especially into turn 6. It's quite bumpy and very easy to lock the tyres, and Daniel Balla again running wide out of 6, catching the grass with the right side.
More drama, by the way, for Energy Virtual Racing, as Victor Veloso got caught speeding in the pit lane.
So whether that was pulling away from its pit box or initially slowing down to the pit lane speed limit, it's quite hard for you. Well, I mean, of course, these drivers will have practiced their in laps at least and a few slowdowns. But when you're on old tyres, it's very, very easy to lock the fronts on the way approaching the pit speed limit line, and it's incredibly easy to just be a kilometre an hour over that limit.
Isaac's now downing the gap to a third second.
There's going to be a change for the lead of the race at the end of this straight. Isaac Price with an absolutely beautiful exit. Lagutskas did not get a good exit. I think I might have spoken too soon. Unless Isaac can get him on the brakes. I think Lagutskas might be running less wing because... I called that too soon. I apologise. But I definitely thought that Isaac Price had an exit there. But,
so it looks as though there is a slight setup difference between Isaac and Lagutskas and Sami Litmanen. Sami Litmanen and Lagutskas in P3 and P1 at the moment seem to have a little bit more top end speed, so whether Isaac's running a little bit more wing so he can use less of his tyres and more of the aerodynamics of the car throughout the twisty parts of the track, sector 1. On the back straight though, Vitatas Lagutskas and Sami Litmanen at least have been the fastest that I've seen on track in terms of top speed.
We just lost the cars of
Victor
Jaroslav
Veloso.
Donalek and Victor Veloso, so Energy Virtual Racing started the race with 4 cars, if I recall it correctly, now down to just 1 entry left, Kaiki Pirapo in the 12th position.
Just looking at the set, what we think is at least the setup differences between Isaac Price and Vitatas Lagutskas. What can Isaac do? Potentially running more wing and having a lower top speed to get past, because turn 6 is the obvious overtaking position. So unless Vitatas Lagutskas gets hindered by traffic,
well, you're kind of hamstringed, aren't you, if you've got the higher wing as you go through the slow sections, and with such a massive back straight. Isaac's best chance is to unsettle Lagutskas into turn 5, because the only chance he has to get past is turn 6. But the second he gets past, these two are going to be back to where they were again. I think it's
now for it to be perfect for Isaac, I think he needs a car between him and Lagutskas on the approach to turn 5, because you can see Lagutskas's benefit from the draft of Henry Virtanen now down the straight. If Isaac had that car between him and Lagutskas, it would mean Isaac could profit from the draft initially and potentially leapfrog a lapped car around Vitatas Lagutskas. But even when he pulls out of that draft, unless he's got a huge amount of overspeed, he's going to do well to conquer the top speed of Vitatas Lagutskas car, potentially running that lower wing angle.
The race leader of Vitatas Lagutskas for Last Lap Motorsports was Mikhail gets it wrong again.
First again corner. In turn 1.
They start lap 65 of 79. Just over an hour and 10 minutes gone in this race. And around about 20 minutes remaining, as we see Isaac Price with some slight rear right damage, which must be affecting his exit out of this turn 6. He's so far back now from Vitatas. I think that back marker or something on that lap just didn't help him much at all there.
Yeah, Isaac looks like he's suffering from the heat peak of the tyres, at least the inside of his front right and the inside of his rear the inside of his front left and the inside of his rear right, both opposite sides of the car, struggling in terms of surface temperature, hotter than he'd like them to be. So that could account for at least a couple tenths in difference between the two. Isaac last time around, a 1 minute 6.73, exactly 2 tenths faster was the man in P1, so that gap's coming up a bit more.
What's definitely not coming down right now is the gap between Sammy and Isaac. So yeah, it's all about the marginal gains now for these three. It's been stalemate the whole race, and even after the pit stops, nothing shuffled around. Very impressive from everyone involved.
Isaac also very, very wide through turn 5 now. I'm not sure if that was a mistake on his part or some traffic played into account there, but Vitautas Lagutskas now has a massive lead as the lap car of Henry Vertinen sits behind Isaac Price, just waiting patiently. Isaac Price hindered massively out of turn 5. You can see just how much he's lost in terms of time. The gap between Isaac and Vitautas Lagutskas now just shy of 2 seconds, when it was around about a half a second to 0.8 this time last lap. So if Isaac Price didn't have his work cut out, he does now, because he needs to get himself even closer to Lagutskas' car. Yeah, Isaac Price last time around, a 1 minute 8.07. That's over a second shy of Vitautas Lagutskas' 1 minute 6.92. Sammy Littmanen, though, again in the high sixes. Jan Wachowski, slightly faster than your top 3 last time around, but too far back. Nico Pantola and Levente Toth. Sorry, take it away, Tilo.
Yeah, Nico just tried to make the outside lane work through turn 6, but it didn't turn out that well. And Gabor actually is now, well, waiting for a Nico thing to happen, I guess.
Do you want to elaborate on what a Nico thing is to the viewers?
Well, a Nico thing are, well, driver errors and other various
That's
ways.
harsh. That's hard. He's had some very good race results in recent times, especially considering he's using an old Microsoft Sidewinder wheel for the last few months. I think he's doing a great job in PD.
No, he's definitely doing a great job, but you have these broadcasts from week to week, and we stumble across some very interesting driver errors from time to time, and a lot of the time the name popping up is Nico Pantola.
So
Sorry to interrupt this bit of the battle, but we've a puncture down in P20. One of the Team America cars, Zanella, suffering with a front left puncture. So both R3 compounds on the front and the back of this car. We'll see him head down into pit lane this time around, but potentially just pushing the tyre wear a bit too far. You can see just how he overshot at least the entry line there. So no penalty, just hindered on time, of course. Can he get it slowed down? Just. You can see how much he locked the fronts up there on approach.
So it looks like the battles are stretching out a little bit again. 6/10 between the cars.
Certainly a race of two halves, this. Very intense first half, and it's settled down a lot after the pit stops, as it usually does in an endurance race. But strategy will still be playing itself out. Some people may have taken more or less fuel, and whoever got their tyres up to temperature the best after the stop will have nice tyres at the end. So there's still plenty of opportunities for drama, incidents, accidents, and a fantastic finish in the 9 laps that we have remaining in round 6 of the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup. Thanks for joining us for this race. If you do want to get involved in the Zero Mileage GT Cup, you still can. You can sign up at Buggyra 301 Games. Sorry, Buggyra301.games. And yeah, we'd love to see you for round 7. Round 7 will be on Sunday the 16th of August from 6 o'clock UTC and that comes from West Hill International, a fantastic, fast and flowing track. The XRR absolutely loves that track, and so do we. So we hope you can join us on the Sim Broadcasts TV Twitch channel for that on Sunday, the 16th of August. But back to tonight's racing action.
Well, just to finish that point there, some incredible prizes again up for grabs, just in terms of prize money for the person that will take the championship at the end of the championship race, so to speak. €1,000 in prize money, 15,000 BC0 cryptocurrency, which is about €2,100 on top of the €1,000 that you get in actual cash. Plenty of opportunities to drive real racing cars on a real racing track. Of course, whoever wins gets to drive the Buggyra VK50 race truck, about 1,000 horsepower, 1,200 PS, and 5,500 Newton meters of torque. So whoever wins will get 10 laps in that with David Wojciechowski coaching. P2 will get to drive the Renault Clio Cup at Most in Czech Republic with Thomas Enger coaching you. So some absolutely huge prizes up for grabs, and yeah, what a race. After 71 laps, the leading pair, Vitatas Lagutskas and Isaac Price, separated by only 1.2 seconds. Isaac Price, after dropping back to around about 2 seconds behind Vitatas Lagutskas in the last at least 3 or 4 laps, has taken about half a second. But again, even if he can close even further up, as Vitatas Lagutskas is massively hindered by Wadowiak's now, a lapped car, we approach turn number 3. Isaac has got the gap down to under 1 second now. Again, even if he gets closer than he is now, he needs to get past Vitatas Lagutskas and stay in front. And with Isaac, we think, running slightly more wing, of course, hinders his top speed at the end of the straight. So, yeah, he's his work cut out.
The closest 2 cars on track, Jack, do appear to be Nico Patola and Levente Toth, as they've been exchanging places for, well, most of the race. Nico Patola in the black and white and gold. I love that livery, the Genuine Racing livery, with the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup sponsors on it. Just behind Levente Toth in that striking blue and yellow livery. We like our liveries here on Sim Broadcasts. I'm sure as we near the end of the season we'll all pick our favourites, and who knows what we might do with that. But yeah, maybe some prizes on offer from us.
Well, if the racing gets dull in the last round, we can fill the time with discussions about why which skin is the best or worst.
Well, there's never a dull moment in this championship, as you know, so we'll have to squeeze it in, I'm sure. Really is a fascinating battle at the top. Marginal gains. And yeah, in an endurance series, in an endurance race, lap traffic can make or break it. But so far, at least for the leading pair, it seems that the lap traffic is behaving itself. And when it isn't, both drivers seems to be affected at various times. So it's it all evens itself out.
And indeed, the top 3 have actually gained the same amount of positions each. Vitatas Lagutskas, Isaac Price and Sami Litmanen all gaining 11 positions in the endurance race, of course, after the top 14 reverse grid from the initial 5-lap sprint race we had just before this action got underway. Isaac Price needs an absolute miracle to get in front of Vitatas Lagutskas, though. Again, I think he still needs a fairly quick car to be between him and Vitatas Lagutskas as we round turn 5, and then Isaac could potentially benefit from the lap car's draft and attempt to leapfrog the race leader. But again, even if he does get alongside Vitatas Lagutskas, you would have thought Vitatas would make Isaac go around the long way, and he has it all to do at the apex. So again, getting close to Vitatas is one thing, getting alongside and past is another.
And even if he does get past, I do doubt with the setup that he'd be able to keep it for very long, because it just seems that even though Lagutskas is not as on it in the middle sector through the final and the first and second sectors, he has such an advantage on the straight and out of the turn 5 So here you can
But
see Isaac's kind of closed up, hasn't he, Jack?
Isaac, given given the circumstances, of course, these are both on different laps. Isaac holds the fastest split time in both splits. On lap 48, Isaac set an 18.09 second split one, the fastest of anybody.
Lagutskas runs wide. Isaac's now in the slipstream.
That
See
back
Lagutskas
marker did not help
immediately
there, did
over
it?
to the left-hand side. These two are definitely going to be side by side, gents. But has Isaac timed it right? Because if Lagutskas strategically lifts just a little bit and tucks back into the slipstream, he can potentially attack into turn 6. So there's been a change for the lead. Isaac Price has managed to profit from Vitatas Lagutskas' mistake through turn 5, but just doesn't cover that inside. Attempts to switch back at the apex. On the power early is Isaac Price, and again they look to be running side by side, but Isaac with a little bit of a weave tucks back into the slipstream of Vitatas Lagutskas, attempting maybe to make a manoeuvre on the outside of the initial part of turn 1. He had the space on the inside, but just didn't get his car close enough alongside Vitatas Lagutskas. And brilliant driving to account for each other. These two scrapping till the checkered flag.
That was Isaac's best chance. The back marker put Lagutskas off, turning into turn 5 the lap before. But Lagutskas with the tactical lift. I think Isaac was unwise there. He should have potentially thought about the long game and waited until the end of the massive straight before ducking out of the slipstream. I think that's
not only does
an opportunity missed.
Yeah, Isaac was on the outside as well as that corner, even though he was the first of the two to enter the braking zone. Vitatas just a bit deeper on the brakes, managed to get it slowed down and turned in, but Isaac's got another run, gents. It looks as though he's close enough to attack once more. Side by side again into the braking zone. Isaac on the outside again. Can't attempt the switch back this time unless it's very late, which it is, and Isaac unfortunately struggles with the traction out of turn 6, and Lagutskas again retains the lead, but these guys are going to be battling into turn 1, 2 laps in a row, gents.
3 laps to go here. This is grandstand stuff. I'm on the edge of my seat.
They were separated by less than 1/10 of a second at the line, and Isaac Price looks as though, at least with the tyre shape that he's in right now in the setup, he's got the legs on Lagutskas in the twisty bits, even following incredibly close. But again, the only way he's going to get close to Lagutskas at the end of the straight is if Lagutskas has a less than ideal turn 5. If Lagutskas can nail turn 5 at least this lap and the remaining 2, he is safe from Isaac Price. You can see this time around Lagutskas nice and smooth on the power out of turn 5, gives him the legs on Isaac Price on this long straight. He's not close enough this time, guys.
No, he definitely is not, and Lagutskas for the first time in 3 laps has hit the apex in turn 5 again.
You can see just how close they close up at the apex of turn 6, but again, it looks as though Lagutskas is going to, if he just needs to hit his marks now, we approach the start-finish line to start the penultimate lap of the race. So Vitatas Lagutskas leads from Isaac Price, less than half a second separate these two. Sami Littman and just less than 3 seconds down the road, Jan Bukowski in P4, Sidus Pauli Peltakangas in P number 5. Road appraisers Pedro Picanco in P6 at the moment, Air Attack Sean Lee in P7, Levente Toth P8, Genuine Racing's Nico Puntola in P9, and Sidus's Gabor. So all 3 Siduses in the top 10 at the moment. Sami Littman and on the last step of the podium, but not close enough to challenge at least these 2 for the race leaders. Again, Isaac Price looks to be very close on the exit, but Lagutskas, just with the traction advantage, makes it very hard for Isaac to close the gap. He has the draft, he's not going to be close enough this time. The gap across the split line is 0.42 of a second, and we know that's a bit too far for him to attack unless it's a monumental dive bomb into turn 6. Again, you can see how close they come at the apex, but Vitatas Lagutskas around in turn 6 to complete the penultimate lap. And this is it, gents. This is the final lap, the final attempt that Isaac Price is going to have to potentially dethrone Lagutskas from his dominant race lead so far. Everything's on the table. Look how close Isaac Price is.
4 corners left.
Yeah, you forget that this track has so few corners, especially when you take the chicane out of it. What an absolute race these gents have put on. I'll be happy if either of them wins, but I will feel slightly sad if Isaac gets it, because what an absolute defence Lagutskas has put up so far. 1 straight and 1 hairpin to go. Lagutskas with a fantastic exit there. Isaac Price not close enough. It's all on the brakes into the hairpin. Isaac has a little bit of draft, but it's not going to be enough to get the move done on the straight.
But the gap last time around was 0.42 seconds. At this point, it's 200ths closer. Can Isaac Price plan a monumental dive bomb? He moves to the inside, brakes really late, of course, not close enough.
Very
locks both axles in two
different... He may as well
different...
have had a go. I would have been disappointed if he didn't do that. Vitalis Lagutskas, what an absolute drive from the Last Lap Motorsport driver. He crosses the line to win round 6 of the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup from Isaac Price in P2, Sammy Lippmanen in P3. What an absolutely fantastic race. Congratulations to all three of them. That was insanely good to watch. And congratulations to Vitalis. What a race. Jan Bukowski crosses the line in P number 4. Pauli Peltikangas P5. 2 Siduses in the top 5. We really need to come up with a plural for Siduses.
Side-eye.
Side-eye. 2 side-eye in the top 5. We're just waiting to see who comes across the line next. Let us know who your driver of the day is in the comments. We'll be sure to read a few of them out and give us some good reasons why you think that driver deserves it. As we see the top 3 then line astern, down the back straight. Pedro Bicanco for Roda Preza crosses the line in P6, then it's Sean Lee in P7, Levente Toth P8, Gabor P9, Nico Patola P10. Daniel Ballard just outside the top 10 in the end. He was on the cusp the whole race. Kaike Paroppo finishes P12 for Energy Virtual Racing. Henry Vertinen born to race in P13. Yoni Katila for World Class Lions P14. David Godds for TRR P15. Viaduct Czech Racing Radek Lutsky in P16. Then P17 for Yari Katila. Bob Vincent in P18. Then we've got Conquest Racing Presmek Vodoviarts in P19 and Jeremiah Zanella for Team America in P20. Pavel Lutsky for Viaduct Czech Racing in P21. Dutchka in P22, and after quite a few incidents and accidents, Dan Michel finishes, which is an achievement, in P23. What a race, guys.
What an absolute stalker that was. So all 3 gents in the top 3, everyone on the podium at least, climbed 11 positions in the endurance race. The highest climber by the looks of it though was I think it was Yoni Katia. I think he made up about 18 places, if I'm not mistaken. Pedro Picanco also making up quite a few places too to finish P6. He's made up 13 positions in that race.
So there you see our podium of finishers. Vitalis Lagutskas in the middle there, with Isaac to his left, and Sammy Lippmanen, who sort of fell back at the end. We think due to maybe a little bit of engine damage that he picked up around halfway through the race. We were on board with him at the time down into turn 2 as he dropped down one too many gears, overrode the engine, and probably lost himself a few percent worth of power, and that probably hampered him a bit. But it doesn't take anything away from the fact that Lagutskas and Isaac Price have done something absolutely special here to be so close for the whole race to provide us with the grandstand finish. And some great racing action today.
79 laps, and at the checkered flag, 0.43 of a second separated the guys on the top 2 steps of the podium. Vitalis Lagutskas also with the fastest lap of the race for good measure. One absolute dominant victory for the Last Lap Motorsport driver.
And it looks like Isaac has come to say hello to us. We'll just give him a couple of moments to prepare himself, and then we'll say hello. Hi Isaac, you there?
Yep.
Wow, we were on the edge of our seats. I'm sure you were as well. Talk us through whichever
Well,
parts
talk
of
us
the
through
race you
your
want to focus
qualifying
on.
and race 1 first. We'll focus on race 2 after that because we've got plenty of questions for you. So, how did you find your qualifying run, and what was the sprint race like for you?
Well, I was struggling with pace in practice, so I kind of spent pretty much right up until the qualifying working on the race setup and trying to make sure that I was at least in a good shape with that. So going straight into quali with I haven't done any quali laps for a couple of the whole day basically. It wasn't ideal, and it took me quite a few laps to kind of find my rhythm. So I didn't have the best qualifying, but I had a good first lap in the sprint race, which pretty much made up for it, because I think even if I'd have done a perfect lap in quali, I wouldn't have been able to qualify ahead of Sammy. And as the second race showed, it's pretty much, it's really difficult to make an overtake here. So yeah.
It looked as though at least in race number 2, when we could really analyze your kind of top speed in comparison to Lagutskás and Sami Litmanen, did you feel as though you ran more wing on the car? Because we noticed that Lagutskás's at least top speed was a bit more than yours.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think we probably ran quite similar wing, but the issue was that I was kind of faster, I think, through the first sector where you can't overtake, and the last corner as well. But anytime I got close in the last corner, you just kind of get the understeer from the car ahead. So you can't get on the power until the car ahead gets on the power, and yeah, at that point, I didn't have an advantage on top speed to be able to get enough of a run. I did get a run on him a couple of times on the start-finish straight, but obviously if the guy places his car the right way, you have to have a massive overspeed to be able to get past them before getting into turn 2. So, yeah.
So yeah, just talk us through those final few laps. What were you thinking? We saw that Lagutskás got caught up a little bit by the back marker out of turn number 5, and you pounced, and we all said we thought you pulled out the slipstream a bit too early and kind of gifted Lagutskás the secondary burst of slipstream down into the hairpin. Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought that I would. I'm not sure if I really got the slipstream overtaking part wrong, but I should have covered the inside more. But yeah,
I noticed at least on the brakes.
I didn't expect him to be able to go for that move because I didn't think he was close enough. And even then, I didn't really expect him to get it stopped. But he got it stopped, and I mean, I got a run on him, but it wasn't enough because it caught me by surprise. I then didn't get enough of a run on him, and it was kind of the same pretty much every time. That was kind of my best chance. I had another opportunity, but again, yeah, I didn't really quite have the enough of an overrun that time to be able to do anything with it. He just covered the inside and braked later, and yeah. But I was kind of in a situation where when I passed him, if I would have braked late to try and cover off the overtake, he might have just braked early, taken the right line, and then got a run on me on the next straight. So I was kind of trying to manage the situation. But as well, I mean, the thing is, you wait 40, 50 laps for the opportunity to be able to make the pass, and then when it comes, you don't really expect it because, like you say, it takes a mistake from the guy ahead, or obviously the first one wasn't anything to do with him. It was just getting unlucky with the back markers. But yeah, I wanted to, once I didn't pass him in the pit stops, I wanted to put him under as much pressure as I could for the final stint, because I passed him in the final stint of GT2 Challenge at Aston, and he I know that he felt like he should have won that race really. So I kind of thought that if it gets close towards the end, he is going to probably make a mistake, and I mean he did, but it wasn't enough for me to take advantage. He learned from his mistake and did a great pass back on me. So yeah, nothing I could do.
So just talking about that incident not incident, but the event that happened into turn 6, that time where Lagutskás attacked late on the brakes and managed to get it slowed down. If that hadn't have happened and you would have retained first position after making the move on that back straight, do you think you'd have been able to hold the lead till the end?
Yeah, I felt like I was faster than him. In the first stint, I was quite conscious of the fact that Sammy seemed to have the best pace of all three of us up until that point, and he was kind of closing in on us, and I wasn't really convinced I was going to have a chance. I knew I was faster, but I wasn't convinced I had enough of an overspeed for him to be able to force the overtake. I needed him to kind of make a mistake. If you're only a couple of tenths faster, or it wasn't even that, it's a tenth, which feels like a lot when you're behind the wheel, but to make it into an overtake, it's not very easy. So I was saving fuel the whole first stint, and I kind of got an extra couple of laps from that, which kind of covered me from losing the place to Sammy. I thought it was going to give me the chance to overtake Lagukas as well, but yeah, it didn't. He put in a little bit extra fuel than I was expecting, so yeah, he pitted the lap after me rather than the lap before, and yeah, I did the best I could. I went into the pits pretty much alongside him, and yeah, it just wasn't enough.
Well done on the podium. I'm sure you would have liked the win, but you certainly get our approval. It was a fantastic last few laps. Are you looking forward to West Hill International round 7 in a couple of weeks' time?
Yeah, I hope it'll be a better one for me. I haven't had the last couple of races. I don't really feel like I had the pace, and obviously the two before this one, I made mistakes from my own kind of unforced errors, really. So yeah, I needed a good result here. I raced this layout before a couple of months ago. So we should have a decent base set up, which hasn't been the case for the last few races. So yeah, hopefully I should be able to get a little bit extra pace than I've had for the last few races, and that always makes it a little bit easier.
Great.
With your strong finishers in the we just finished round 6 at the moment. With where you finished today, P2, and the drop rounds taken into consideration, are you happy where you sit in terms of championship points at this stage?
Yeah, I think if I would have been offered beating Sammy today and still getting a couple of second places, I would have taken that for sure. The sprint races aren't as important, I don't think, for me, because I haven't had any like real disasters in the sprint. Whereas in the main race, obviously I've got 2 that are definite drops that I need to avoid. So I can afford a few mistakes in the sprint races, but I can't afford the same mistakes in the feature anymore. I've got one drop left really to use if I want to fight for the championship.
Well, many congratulations for your second step on the podium today, just half a second from the race win at the checkered flag, and again just half a tenth away from the fastest lap at the end there. But in the commentary booth comes Mr. Sean Lee. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello. So sum up your qualifying and race one for us first. How did you find the track today?
Well, firstly, congrats to Isaac. That was a good battle at the front. In qualifying, I couldn't get the pace of the car. I didn't have the right setup, so I was quite far back. In the sprint race, I just kept my nose clean and watched people just crash, and I got a P10 there, which got me 5th on the grid for the feature race. Feature race was a bit more chaotic. I got into the lead after passing, I think, Henry Vertingen, and tried to get a gap. But after that, I played it smart and just drove a very clean race compared to my previous ones.
What were you kind of aiming for in terms of race 2 strategy? What did you stop when you planned to? Were you kind of taking things last minute? Did you have a window that you wanted to kind of stick to? What was your strategy for the endurance race?
I came into this event without much practice. So on my aim was just to keep pace with the car in front and not lose time to the cars behind. I knew I was fighting at least Toff and Vertingen, so I just made sure that I covered them off. And I think Nick Pantola had a bad pit stop or something. And near the end, I noticed that there was a huge gaggle of cars that's coming after me, so I had to step on the gas a bit. There was 20 laps of pure qualifying laps. Yeah.
We noticed during the race that you did only change the tires and did not refuel at the halfway point. And I had the feeling you were very much managing your finishing time, so to speak. You were choosing your battles to fight. Was that true, or was that just coincidence when you were on stream?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have seen in the previous races that I'm quite an aggressive defender, but I think this race I played it a little bit safer. Yeah, I just aim. I set a delta lap time. I think it's a 107.8. So I stuck to that for the second half of the race, and I made sure that I didn't go too slow. So I made sure that my finishing time was a bit faster, and that way when people pit stop and fell behind me, I was kind of surprised I got seventh.
Yeah, solidly in the top 10. And the people that you were racing, for example, Levente Toth in P8 just behind you, about 4.5 seconds up the road, back down the road, and Henry Verton down in P13. You must be happy. That's a comfortable top 10 finish, and yeah, decent fastest lap as well from yourself in the mid 1 minute sixes, which is where we've seen a lot of the fastest laps. You must be happy with the points from this round.
Yeah. I'm happy. I'm happy with the points, and when with the drop rounds taken into consideration, I wasn't quite sure like where I would be, but I saw that I was in 13, so I thought, oh heck, I'll just keep it my all for this race. And I think, P7 is a very rewarding one, although the setup was different, but I think it helped through for the entire race, and I'm chuffed with the result.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So we are at Westhill International next time for round 7. One final question: what are you looking forward to that?
Um, Normally, I'm quite okay in West Hill, but we'll see how it goes. I would like another top 10 finish for sure, but I mean, we'll see when we get there.
Okay, right. Thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, Isaac and Sean Lee. I bet you both, like Sean just said there, chuffed with your finishing positions, and we hope to, we wish you the best of luck for round number 7 and hope to chat with you at the end of that race. But I think Pete's going to give us a bit more information on what's happening with Sim Broadcasts and Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup, and we'll sign off for today.
Thank you very much, Jack. Yes, I echo your sentiment. Thank you very much to Nova and Isaac for coming to speak to us after the race. What a race it was. That sums up round 6 of the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup, but there's plenty more action coming up in Live for Speed and on the Sim Broadcast channel over the coming weeks. Next Sunday, the 2nd of August, we have OEC Season 5, Round 3, hosted by our very own Tila Falkenberg. That's at Kyoto Ring National reversed in the LRF and NGT classes in LFS. You can sign up for that on the Live for Speed forum if you're interested in some more endurance racing. That's a 3-hour format. Maybe Tilo, you can give us an elevator pitch about that.
Well, basically, 5 different cars and 2 classes, balanced by their pit stop times to the finish line. So even though it might appear that some cars have an advantage at the end of the race, this should be leveled out completely. And it's a category for all different levels of skill. So just sign up and enjoy the race.
Thanks for that, Tilo. Sorry, go on, Jack.
Yeah, and of course, if you're interested in any of the series that we cover, feel free to check out our broadcast calendar in the Twitch or YouTube video description, depending on where you're looking. You can see where exactly we are in terms of broadcasts and things like that. And the Live for Speed forum area for each individual series that we cover is linked right next to its corresponding slot in our calendar. So yeah.
Round 7 of the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup is on Sunday, the 16th of August at Westhill International, as we mentioned before. Same car and same time and same place. We'll be broadcasting that from the Sim Broadcasts Twitch channel and over on the Buggyra YouTube channel and Facebook page. So all that's left to say is thank you very much to Tilo Falkenberg and Jack Eyre for joining me for commentary. Thank you very much to all of the sponsors of the Buggyra Zero Mileage GT Cup, 301.cz, Excalibur Army, Slovak Training Centre, Eldis, VAG Logistics Solutions, K-Tech, New Trend, A-Track, GC System, and Yordak. Without them, this series would not be able to go ahead. But also, it wouldn't be able to go ahead without our fans and viewers. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all the drivers for competing in this series. We hope you have a great evening. From all of us at Sim Broadcasts and 301, have a good night.